Atomic Habits by James Clear. Small habits can exert a surprisingly significant influence on your life. To illustrate this point, picture a plane preparing for departure from Los Angeles, bound for the Big Apple, New York City. The pilot inputs all the necessary information into the aircraft's computer, and the plane takes off on the correct course. However, not long after takeoff, the pilot accidentally alters the flight path by a mere 3.5 degrees, an almost imperceptible adjustment of just a few feet of the plane's nose. That nose shifts ever so slightly to one side, and neither the pilots nor the passengers detect the change. Over the course of the journey across the United States of America, this minor deviation accumulates. It builds, ultimately leading the bewildered passengers and even more perplexed pilots to land in Washington, D.C., instead of their destination, New York. Why is this relevant? It serves as a metaphor for how we often overlook the small changes in our lives. Immediate effects of minor adjustments may seem negligible. For example, if you are out of shape and go for a 20-minute jog, you're still out of shape. And you're still going to be out of shape tomorrow. You can't see the difference. If you indulge in a family-sized pizza for dinner, just for yourself, it won't cause you to gain 20 pounds of overweight overnight. You're not going to become magically unfit just by one pizza. However, when these minor actions are repeated consistently time after time, their cumulative effects become significant. That one time you ate pizza may not make a big difference, but eating a whole family-sized pizza for yourself every single day for 5 years will likely result in considerable weight gain and a very noticeable change when looking in the mirror. While jogging for 20 minutes one time may not make a noticeable difference, you jog for 20 minutes every single day for 5 years, and you probably will notice some differences, particularly in your cardiovascular fitness. The key insight here is that small habits can wield a profound impact on your life, though you may not perceive their effects in real time. The results of your habits will become apparent over time. It can be disheartening when the fruits of your labor do not materialize immediately. If you find yourself discouraged by the absence of instant positive change, it is crucial to concentrate on your current trajectory rather than your immediate results. For instance, you may have limited savings in the bank, but you are consistently setting money aside each month. While your current results may not be impressive, your nest egg remains modest, you can trust that you are on the right path. Persistence in this direction, and you will eventually notice a substantial improvement. When the perceived lack of progress weighs you down, remind yourself that you are taking the right steps and moving in the right direction. So, how can you ensure that you are on the proper trajectory? The key lies in developing habits. In the following section, we will explore how to cultivate these vital behaviors. Habits are ingrained behaviors that we have acquired through experience. When you enter a dark room, your actions are instinctive. You automatically reach for the light switch. This is a habit, a behavior you have performed repeatedly over years and years until it became second nature. Habits are all around us. From brushing our teeth to driving our cars, they wield immense power. But how do they form? In the 19th century, psychologist Edward Thorndike sought to answer this question. He conducted an experiment in which he placed cats inside a dark box and timed how long it took for them to escape. Initially, each cat behaved predictably, frantically searching for an exit. They sniffed and pawed at the corners and clawed at the walls until they eventually found a lever that opened a door, allowing them to escape. Thorndike then repeated the experiment with the same cats. He discovered that after being placed in the box multiple times, the cats quickly learned to head straight to the lever. After 20 to 30 attempts, the average cat could escape in just 6 seconds. In essence, escaping the box had become a habit for the cats. Thorndike's experiment revealed a crucial insight. Behaviors yielding satisfying outcomes, such as gaining freedom in this case, tend to be repeated until they become automatic. Since Thorndike's time, our understanding of habits has advanced significantly. We now know that habits consist of 4 distinct components. First is the cue, or a trigger for action. Entering a dark room cues you to perform an action that enables you to see. Next comes the craving for a change in state. In this instance, from darkness to light. The response, or action, follows, flipping the light switch. The final step in the process, and the ultimate goal of every habit, is the reward, the feeling of mild relief and comfort derived from being able to see your surroundings. Every habit follows this pattern. For example, do you drink coffee in the morning? Waking up serves as your cue, inciting a craving for alertness. Your response is to rouse yourself from bed and brew a good old cup of coffee. The reward is feeling wide awake and prepared to tackle your day, of course, only after your coffee. Now that you have a grasp of how habits function, let's explore how you can cultivate beneficial habits that can positively transform your life. Building new habits necessitates unmistakable cues and a well-defined action path. We have just explored the formation of habits, which consist of 4 components. A cue, a trigger prompting action. A craving, a desired outcome. A response, the action constituting the habit itself. And a reward, the positive sensation resulting from completing that habit. With this understanding, you can begin to harness the habit-forming process to establish beneficial and productive routines. Suppose you are eager to learn the guitar. You have the instrument and have mastered the basics, but struggle to maintain consistent practice. Each morning, you promise yourself you will play the guitar later, but at the end of the day, you haven't touched that guitar. Armed with the knowledge of habit formation, you can leverage it to your advantage. In this scenario, make the cue to pick up your guitar impossible to ignore. Instead of storing the instrument in a cupboard or a spare room corner, place it prominently in your living room, where it is easily visible the second you walk inside. Ensuring your cue is conspicuous and unmissable facilitates the transformation of your desire to practice into a habit. Altering your environment to prominently display your cues helps. But perfecting your triggers can be further achieved through implementation intentions. Most people tend to be vague about their goals when establishing good habits, saying, "I'm gonna eat better. I'm gonna lose weight. I'm going to learn guitar," and they just rely on hope for the follow-through. Implementation intentions provide a clear action path, specifying when and where you will carry out the habit you aim to develop. Returning to the guitar example, instead of vaguely promising to do some amount of practice sometime during the week, commit to practicing for 1 hour on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday immediately after your alarm sounds. And remember to keep your guitar in that prominent area right in the center of the room. By formulating an implementation intention, you equip yourself with a definitive plan and an evident cue, making it significantly easier to cultivate a positive habit. You may be wondering whether this approach actually works. Can you truly modify your environment to facilitate positive habit formation? It may sound plausible in theory, but what about in practice? To address this question, consider the work of Dr. Anne Thorndike, a Boston-based physician unrelated to Edward Thorndike, the cat researcher. I know that's a weird coincidence. Dr. Thorndike aimed to help her patients improve their diets and snacking habits, recognizing that consciously deciding to eat healthier can be challenging and requires considerable willpower and discipline. Attributes that, unfortunately, not everyone possesses in abundance. Discipline. Dr. Thorndike and her colleagues devised an experiment in which they reorganized the hospital cafeteria. They replaced the soda in the refrigerators near the cash registers with bottled waters and placed baskets of bottled water throughout the cafeteria. The team then observed the results. Over 3 months, soda sales declined by 11%, now being in a slightly less convenient location, while water sales increased by over 25%. By creating additional cues for people to drink water, Dr. Thorndike and her team successfully encouraged, unconsciously, individuals to make healthier choices. In essence, they facilitated the development of better habits without necessitating conscious decisions. This outcome provides compelling evidence that simply adjusting your environment can indeed help you adopt healthier habits. Humans are driven by the anticipation of rewards, so making habits appealing will enhance your adherence to them. We are currently at the midpoint of our investigation into atomic habits. We have examined the potency of habits, their formation, and how to utilize habit cues effectively. Now let's delve into the reward aspect of habit building. In 1954, neuroscientists James Olds and Peter Milner conducted an experiment to investigate the neuroscience behind desire. They employed electrodes to block the release of the neurotransmitter dopamine in rats. The results were astonishing. The rats lost the will to live. Deprived of dopamine, the rats lost interest in, simple things like eating and drinking and even having sex. I mean, that's when you know it's bad, right? They were not engaging in any social activities. They eventually literally died because they hadn't drinking any water for several days. This unsettling finding demonstrates the vital role of dopamine as a motivator. When we engage in activities beneficial to our survival, eating, drinking, procreating, dopamine is released, producing a feeling of pleasure. This sensation encourages us to repeat the advantageous behavior, particularly the procreating behavior. So, how does this relate to habit building? Interestingly, we do not need to participate in pleasurable activities to experience a dopamine surge. Merely anticipating a pleasurable experience can trigger dopamine release. In the brain's reward system, desiring something is equivalent to obtaining it. We can use this to our benefit. If we make a new habit something we eagerly anticipate, we are more likely to follow through and execute it. This brings us to the concept of temptation bundling, where you link an essential but perhaps not so attractive behavior you want to perform to a behavior you already find appealing. In this way, you can leverage dopamine to your advantage when forming new habits. Take Ronan Byrne, an engineering student from Ireland, as an example. Ronan realized that he should exercise more, but found little enjoyment in working out. However, he loved watching certain shows on Netflix. So, Ronan modified an exercise bike by connecting it to his laptop and writing code that allowed Netflix to function only if he cycled at a specific speed. By associating exercise with an activity he found naturally appealing, he turned an unattractive task into an enjoyable one. You don't need to create an elaborate Netflix/exercise bike setup to apply this principle to your life. Simpler methods exist. If you need to exercise but want to keep up with the latest celebrity gossip, commit to reading magazines only while at the gym. Or if you want to watch sports but need to make sales calls, reward yourself with 30 minutes of ESPN after contacting the prospects you need to. Simply find ways to make important yet unappealing tasks enjoyable, and you will be riding a dopamine wave while simultaneously cultivating that positive habit. If you aim to establish a new habit, make that habit as effortless to adopt as possible. Ensuring a habit is enjoyable greatly contributes to its longevity. Another approach to optimizing the habit building process is to simplify it. Effortless behaviors govern our lives. We mindlessly scroll through social media or snack on a bag of potato chips because these actions require minimal effort. In contrast, performing 100 push-ups or studying Mandarin demands significant exertion. This explains why we are not naturally inclined to engage in rigorous exercise or language learning during our leisure time. By rendering our desired behaviors as uncomplicated as possible, we maximize our chances of transforming them into habits. Fortunately, multiple strategies can help us achieve this. Firstly, we can reduce friction. To illustrate, James Clear struggled with sending greeting cards. In contrast, his wife never missed the opportunity to send a good old-fashioned handwritten card. The reason is straightforward. She maintains a pre-sorted collection of greeting cards for various occasions at home. This simple measure makes it much more convenient for her to send a congratulations or condolences or other messages. She does not have to go to the store and look for a card and buy the card every single time someone gets married or lands a new job. She already has the cards, so that lowers the friction involved in sending one. Friction operates in two directions. You can decrease friction to transform a beneficial behavior into a habit, or you can increase friction to eliminate a detrimental existing habit. For instance, if you want to reduce the time spent watching TV, unplug the device and remove the remote's batteries. This introduces a little bit of friction to make it a little bit more difficult for you to turn on that TV. You have to be a little more interested to go through the increased friction. Now let's discuss a second strategy for making a habit easier in the long run: the 2-minute rule. This method renders any new activity manageable. The premise is that any behavior can be condensed into a habit achievable within 2 minutes or less. So, if you want to read more, do not commit to finishing an entire book today or in a week. That's too much. You're trying to form the habit. Instead, make a habit of just reading one single page. 2 minutes of reading. Or if you aspire to run a marathon, commit to putting on your running gear every single day after work. The 2-minute rule establishes easily attainable habits, small victories that can lead to more significant accomplishments. Once you have put on your running shoes, you'll probably go for a run. But you are only committing to the running shoes. Similarly, once you have read a page, you might want to read more. But you don't have to. You're only committing to that 2 minutes of reading. Simply initiating the action is the foremost and most crucial step towards achieving your goal. Incorporating instant gratification into your habits is crucial for effective behavior change. As we approach the conclusion, let's discuss the final rule for utilizing habits to enhance your life. To do so, let's explore the story of a highly successful public health researcher, Stephen Luby. During the 1990s, Luby worked in Pakistan and excelled in his role. He managed to reduce diarrhea rates among local children by a staggering 52%, cut pneumonia rates by 48%, and decreased skin infection rates by 35%. Well, those are some pretty big numbers. What was his secret? Soap. Or a more appealing soap, more specifically. Indeed, Luby's remarkable public health accomplishments resulted from something as simple as slightly more enticing soap. Luby understood that hand washing and basic sanitation were vital for reducing illnesses. The locals were aware of this too, but they struggled to transform their knowledge into a habit. When Luby collaborated with Procter & Gamble to introduce a premium soap to the neighborhood for free, everything changed. Hand washing became a gratifying experience as the new soap produced a rich lather and emitted that pleasant scent. Smells so good. Suddenly, everyone began washing their hands because the activity was a little more enjoyable. Luby's story demonstrates the final and most critical rule for behavior change. Habits must be satisfying. However, making good behaviors satisfying can be a challenge, partly due to human evolution. Nowadays, we exist in what is called a delayed gratification environment. For example, you go to work today, but you don't get paid today. At least most people aren't getting paid the same day. You get paid in 2 weeks or at the end of the month. Hey, you worked out this morning. You didn't lose 10 pounds. That didn't happen overnight. You gotta delay the gratification. Regrettably, our brains evolved to handle an immediate return environment. It doesn't like delayed gratification. Our distant ancestors were not concerned with long-term returns like retirement savings or, weight loss. They were trying to not starve to death. Slightly different issues. They focused on immediate needs. They needed some food, man. They need it now. They need shelter, and they need it now. It's my money, and I need it now. The emphasis on immediate returns can promote bad habits. Smoking might cause lung cancer in 40 years, but for a lot of people, it relieves a little bit of stress right now. And for a lot of people, the instant gratification from a cigarette often overrides the significant long-term health consequences. Therefore, when adopting habits with delayed returns, attempt to incorporate some instant gratification. James Clear has 2 friends, a couple, that exemplify this concept. They wanted to eat out less, cook at home more, improve their health, and save money. Goals with delayed return results. To infuse a bit of immediate return motivation, they opened a savings account called Trip to Europe. Each time they skipped dining out, they transferred $50 into their Trip to Europe account. The short-term satisfaction of seeing $50 added to their Trip to Europe savings account provided the instant gratification necessary to keep them on track. Establish a framework to maintain your habits utilizing trackers and contracts. We have discovered how to create exceptional habits, but despite making them pleasurable and satisfying, we might still struggle to uphold them. In this final section, let us explore how we can adhere to our positive intentions. A straightforward technique for reinforcing new habits is known as habit tracking. Many successful individuals throughout history have maintained records of their habits. Benjamin Franklin is a notable example. Starting at the age of 20, he kept a notebook where he documented his adherence to 13 personal virtues, such as avoiding trivial conversation and consistently engaging in useful activities. Each night, Franklin would assess his progress in each area. You can emulate Franklin's habit tracking approach by using a simple calendar or diary and marking off each day whether or not you maintained your chosen behaviors. Habit tracking is in itself an appealing and gratifying habit. The anticipation and act of marking each day off, putting that big old X through the day on your calendar, that check mark, will feel rewarding and keep you motivated. Next, I recommend developing a habit contract that enforces negative consequences if you fail to remain on track. Brian Harris, an entrepreneur from Nashville, took his habit contract quite seriously. In a contract signed by him, his wife, and his personal trainer, he pledged to reduce his weight to 200 pounds. He identified specific habits that would help him achieve this, including tracking his daily food intake and weighing himself weekly. He then established penalties for neglecting those activities. Failing to track his food would result in a $100 payment to his trainer, while not weighing himself would cost him $500 payable to his wife. Unfortunately for his trainer and his wife, this strategy was effective, driven not only by the fear of losing money, but also by the fear of losing face in front of two significant people in his life. After all, humans are social creatures, and we care about the opinions of those around us. Merely knowing that someone is observing you can be a potent motivator for success. So, why not create a habit contract for yourself? Even if it is not as intricate or serious as Brian Harris's, consider making a commitment to your partner, a close friend, a coworker you respect. If you agree on a set of consequences for failing to follow through, you will be more likely to adhere to your habits. As we've seen, consistently practicing a positive habit, no matter how small, is a surefire way to accomplish significant achievements in your life. This concludes Atomic Habits by James Clear.